Okay, so we should have the recording started. And I want to welcome everybody today to the webinar on the collection and remittance of 911 fee program. Please remember to mute your microphones. The questions that you have, I'd like for you to hold those questions till the end. If you do have questions that come up and you'd like to not forget about them, you can always type them in the chat dialog, but we'll be coming back to those as we get closer towards the end of the call as well. So we're going to do this as sort of a presentation type of webinar in the beginning, and then we'll sort of take all the questions at the end. And as a reminder too, if there are questions that you think of after the webinar, we always have the accounting@ndaco.org email address where you can send those questions for our team to follow up with you. So I just wanted to say good morning to everybody. My name is Jason Horning, for those of you who I haven't met already. My role over here at the Association of Counties is the Next Generation 911 Program Manager, and I work with the 911 centers across the state, the 911 coordinators across the state on modernizing the state's 911 system. I also manage the program that's supported by the Next Generation 911 JPA. So that's my role. We have a team of folks over here that's been busy working on this project for this past year, and you'll meet some of them as they do their portion of the presentation. I did want to give a special thank you to Erica, Brandy, and Jody, the auditors who stepped up to help with providing us some guidance in advance of a formalized joint powers agreement governing body, which I'll talk a little bit more about too. But in the lead up to this program, we did lean on them for some guidance, as we were getting ready to kick things off. So I just wanted to recognize their efforts and send a special thank you to them. So today's webinar is on the collection and remittance of the 911 fee program. We'll be covering some of the same ground that was in the email that you should have received. We sent an email about usernames and passwords and process and just sort of a very detailed sort of reference email. And I know it was long. I don't expect you to read all of it, but it covered a lot of the ground we needed to share with you. And we'll be covering again some of that same ground here. As I mentioned in the beginning, what we're wanting to do today is first present you with some of that same material, maybe a little bit more detail, maybe a little bit more meat on the bone since December, and then towards the end we'll answer any questions that that you have that are outstanding and concerns that you have. So with that, I guess we'll kick things off just by saying, we started working on this back in early 2023. It was sort of a byproduct of our auditors looking at the Next Gen 911 program and saying, hey, we really need some more information here. We see the revenues coming in, but we don't have a lot of details on line counts and that sort of thing, and making sure that everything was coming in the way it was supposed to be coming in. And so we started thinking about it like, well, we can push those kind of things back to the counties, but they're already doing a lot. So maybe it's better to consider at least approaching them and seeing if they'd be interested in letting us just sort of manage this piece of the revenue on the 911 fee for them, and also submitting portions of those revenues to the appropriate program so that the counties themselves didn't have to do that. We did have 52 of the 53 counties in the state of North Dakota agree that it was a good process and made sense to the counties. And so with that, we did approach the carrier community as well, and we've prepped them for the start of that program here on January 1st. So in a nutshell, the program centralizes the collection of 911 funds in the state. Its intent is to improve efficiency, consistency, and information sharing, and while reducing workloads on counties and telcos. And I got to say that as we've been communicating with folks and communicating with the service provider community, that idea has been reinforced by the feedback we've received. A lot of the service providers are very thankful that we're doing this because it simplifies their process, and we've heard, through the signing of the joint powers agreements is evidence enough that the counties were interested in this as well. So Looks like it's going to be a good thing, and we're ready to kick things off. And so what we're trying to do now is just get ready for the first remittance here in February, and you'll see that in March. I'll talk a little bit more about that. But yes, we're kicking things off of sort of effective January 1. I'll also mention that there is a JPA governing board that will be overseeing this program. So much like the Next Generation 9-1 program or other joint powers agreements or other programs that we run here, we don't do things on in isolation. We rely on governing boards to provide the programs with guidance and support because it's really your program. It's meant to support the counties. And so we want to make sure that there's good representation from those counties that are participating to provide us with that guidance and direction. So the governing board is actually written into the statute as being a committee of the 9-1 Association. So the 9-1 Association has met and they've approved, at least initially, a special committee to serve in this capacity and provide this support. Long term, they may be looking at a permanent committee, but at this time, it's a special committee, and it is going to be seated by a number of representatives from the counties who are participating, 9-1 coordinators, and auditors and treasurers. And we really want to have a nice balance there between the the finance folks and the 9-1 folks, and they're looking at getting things kicked off probably here in January because we do have some questions going into that first remittance that we'll need some direction on. So there is a governing board being stood up. Haven't met yet, but that group is working on getting organized. As for the timing on the remittances, so this has been a question that has come up, and we've tried to provide guidance to our service providers that we're trying to create consistency in this program, consistency, transparency, and following the directions set forth in the Century Code. And after looking at that, um, basically, basically what it says is all fees that come in to a service provider must be remitted within 30 days. We've had some cases where service providers are sending checks to counties for a January deposit already, but that doesn't really line up well with the North Dakota Century Code, which says that it's after it's collected. So we've been trying to work through those things and identify those carriers that are looking at it in that direction and trying to change some mindsets and perspectives on how they're approaching it. And they've been pretty open so far to accommodating that new sort of thinking, where until a fee is collected, it's not really needing to be remitted. So to sort of estimate what you might receive is not the way that I don't think that was the intent of that portion of Century Code. So um, on the timing side, so what we're saying is any revenues that they received for the month of December of 2023 would be remitted directly to the counties in January. So counties should receive checks for December based on the receivables, the 9-1 fees that they have at the end of last year. Then starting in January, any fee revenue that comes in during the month of January up until the 31st of January would now be remitted to the North Dakota Association of Counties through an ACH process, along with a report that they're required to provide. So it's really a two-step process. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into the website some more, but that's essentially the direction we're providing to them. So again, December incomes or December revenues are paid to counties in January. January revenues are paid to NDACO in February and on a go-forward basis. We're looking at the March 7th is the date that we're looking for the first remittance. So that'll be the calendar date that we're shooting for to ACH the deposits to the counties and to the appropriate programs. And that March 7th payment would be for the month of January. Reason being, it's sort of delayed like that is because the telcos have 30 days to remit their fees. You might have heard me say that already. So we have to give them through the following month to make that deposit. And so, yeah, that's sort of the timeline on the next step, and then it sort of just moves forward from that. February collections would be remitted at the end of February, and then paid out to the counties at the beginning of April, April 7th, or the first business day after a holiday or weekend. So that's sort of the timeline. There might be some questions on that. I'm anticipating having questions on that, but we'll hold those thoughts, and we'll come back to it. And because we do have some finance folks here that, if I misspoke, they'll help correct me. As far as the portal, so a 911 fee portal has been set up for this purpose. There is a service provider or vendor area, and there's also a county area. We're using this for the information sharing. So the service providers each month will be required to submit their line counts for voice over IP, wireline, and wireless customers for that month. And then based on all the information that comes in from all the telephone providers and what counties those lines apply towards, we'll then cut it off at a certain point. Um, so like in the beginning of March, after the February 30 days is over, we'll have to close that period. And then based on when that closure happens, we'll be looking at all the line counts, all the reports, all the deposits that have been made, and then summing all that information up and preparing reports for counties so that they can do what they need to do with their information, and for transparency and showing you what has come in from those individual carriers, showing what has been deposited into the Siren Fund, and showing what's been deposited into the Next Generation 911 program. So we want all eyes on this. We're trying to make sure that our calculations are accurate. That's what this is all about. But we also want you to see everything that's going on, so that if you catch something that's not quite right, you can let us know. It's part of the reason why we're asking you to verify your ACH, verify your surcharge rate, the official surcharge rate that's been on voter approved, and also, of course, get the ACH information from you so we can get the monies back to you. So the next item is just wanted to recognize that an email did go out in December to the auditors, treasurers, and I think the 911 coordinators were CC'd as well. And we need two things by February 1st. One is verification of the official surcharge rate, because we use that rate to apply towards the line counts. And it's important that we get that right. Otherwise, the county's not going to get what they're due. But that is the amount that has been voter approved by your county. And that's the number that we'll be using to multiply by the line counts to tell the service providers what they owe each county. By February 1st, we also need ACH deposit information from all the counties. As of today, I think we have 20 of 53 counties. Well, it's actually 52 counties, because Emmons County is the only county not participating. So of the 52 ACH accounts we need, we only have 20. So, we do have another, half a month here to get that information, but I would encourage you, if you're on the call and you aren't sure if you've sent it yet, please follow up with our finance team through that accounting@ndaco.org email address, and make sure that we have that information on file so we can get your monies back to you starting in March. If you did not get the email and you feel you need to, let accounting@ndaco.org know as well, and we'll make sure that you get a copy of that correspondence. A lot of the content's similar to what I'm covering here today, but it does give you some information on how to log into the system. So you'll need that information as well. We do want a single point of contact for each county. It's good for everybody to know what's going on, and sharing of account information. I mean, we're not going to be the police over that, but we do need to make sure that we don't have counties where one person thinks it's their job and the other person thinks it's their job, and we're stepping on each other's feet. So each county should identify a primary point of contact, and I think our finance team is working on trying to identify some of that. Maybe Angie can cover sort of those expectations when her time today is coming up. Another question we've received is about what happens if we receive checks after January. Well, we can talk a little bit more about that, but some of the details for that particular scenario were provided in the email. We, with 150, 160, whatever the number is, service providers in the state, and new ones coming on seemingly, every month or two, it's possible that the counties are going to get checks into February, into March, into April. Now we're going to be, addressing those as they come in, but what we need to do, starting in February, is if checks start to come in, what we've instructed folks to do is to make those payable to NDACL. Send us the check along with any other material that came in the mail with that check, so we can reach out to that vendor on your behalf and get them on board with the program, get them an account if they don't already have them, explain to them the process, and provide some more clarity so that doesn't occur in the future. So those will come up. We anticipate they will. If they don't, great, but we sort of expect that they will, and that'll be the process starting in February. The January checks you receive, as I said, you should deposit those. The one thing I do want you to watch out for, though, is if a check comes in and says it's for the month of January, we do want to follow up with those service providers and make sure that we're on the same page as far as when those revenues are actually due. So more on that if you have questions, of course, but I think at this time it might be a good opportunity for Kevin with Tau Interactive. Kevin's been instrumental in getting our 911 fee website set up and working with us on the calculations and the information we need from the service providers, the information we need to get back to counties. And so he's been great to work with for the past 6 months or so. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to him and cover the fee portal from the county perspective. So with that, Kevin, are you there?
Yep. Can you hear me now?
Yep, we got you.
Okay. Let me just share my screen here. Okay. Is the screen up?
It is, yes.
So you should have all received the packet with the information with the URL for the website and your login information. If you didn't get that, you can reach out to that accounting at NDACO email and we'll get it sent over to you. So the site's pretty basic for the county side of things. Once you log in with your information, let's use an example here. You'll come into the main part of the portal. Here you'll see any news and announcements if there's some new issue or item to be made aware of. That'll appear on the homepage here. We have an area with resources. A lot of this is for the communication providers, but there is some information here for you as well, maybe like the ACH form if you need that. Again, other resources will be added as needed down the road. The main area for you under the county section here is going to be where that report is. Once the vendors submit all their information, all the calculations and payments are made and whatnot, the first deposit is scheduled for March 7th. So around that, after that time, you'll come in here and you'll be able to see the report for January. We have some sample data here in here just to show some other reports, but you'll see that reporting period with the totals for all vendors of your counts, and then you can go in and view the detail where it'll break it down by company and show the wireline, wireless, VoIP, and then all the associated admin fee and so on. So ultimately on this report, this is what you should see deposited on your end, and then you can see how much goes into the next generation 911 and the siren. Again, as Jason said, want to make sure that everybody verifies what the rate is. These are all based off of what we have currently in the system. Forgot to mention that if you want to go to the counties page, you can see your county, and if you just click on your county, this is what we have as your current effective rate. This does include the siren fee as well. If you want, everybody has an initial username and password assigned. If you want to come in here, you can go to the user profile, fill in your contact information, and update your password if you want to do that as well. And that's really about it. I mean, there's not much else on the site other than the report is probably going to be your main interaction once the things get going here. And this looks to just continue to grow. At some point when it gets to be really long, we'll kind of have an archive area where you can view archive reports if needed.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Kevin will stick around, so there'll be questions at the end if we need him to chime in, he'll be around. So,
Sure.
there's a two-step process for the carriers, and the first step is they have a similar portal like this where they're going to log in, they're going to provide their information, and then the second step of their process is to ACH the amount that this system provides them, that bases the calculations on your surcharge rate and their admin rate. Then, of course, there's the sharing out of the information, which is what you're seeing here. Those deposits that get sent out on the 7th will line up with these reports, so you'll have visibility into that process. So I guess that might be a good time to turn over sort of what happens, after the information is compiled and shortly before the ACH. I guess I could turn it over to Angie, and she can share with you sort of more details on that part of the process. So, Angie, are you there?
Yes. And I'd say Jason did a really good job walking through all of the things that we're still looking for from you. But I'm Angie, and I'm with I'm a controller with the Association of Counties. You can definitely feel free to reach out to any of the finance staff if you have questions along the way as we get this program rolling. But we're anxious to get it kicked off here. And as Jason said, our timing is that the January reporting or any payments that will be remitted for the month of January activity will be received by us in February. We'll kind of leave that month open until the end of February, close it off, and then pull the report that Kevin was just showing us, which we will use for making our payments out to the counties. That'll be by ACH payments. And then you'll be able to go log in and grab that report to match up on your side. So you'll see the dollars that are being paid, as well as the report of the siren payments, which we'll be making on your behalf. Some of the things that we are kind of still waiting for, Jason mentioned, I'm just going to mention again. So the ACH authorization form, if you aren't sure, you can just reach out to the accounting email and inquire if yours has been received at this point yet. And same with that confirmation of the surcharge rates in the email that you originally got, or on the website where you can see that as well. And then, the contact piece, just so that we make sure we're contacting the right person, and maybe it is person or persons at your county, however that works best for you. But we want to put a list together so that we don't miss anybody. I guess, and then I wanted to talk a little bit about this timing, because we've already had an issue whereby a service provider sent out their January checks the first week in January. So I apologize, but thank the counties who have really been helpful in getting those dollars back to that service provider. We're hoping that not many service providers do that, but it is possible. So we want you to take an extra close look at any checks that you get, already in the month of January, and make sure that they're for the right period. So if they are payments for the month of December, treat them the way you have, deposit them, submit your portion as you have been. But if it's any payment for January or after, those should be returned to the service provider, or like Jason said, for a one-time thing, we can also have you endorse it over to us and keep the process moving. But we would want to definitely work with that service provider and make sure we get them on the right page in terms of the timing and their reporting, and make sure that they're in the loop. It's certainly possible that in all of our communications, we could have missed a county or a provider or two. maybe 10. There are quite a few in the state. So we're working to really hone in on all those extra details to make sure that we are communicating with the right people on the county side as well as the service provider side. So if you bump into any payments, any checks, any ACHs, and you have questions, you can either call myself or Tiana in the office here, or email that accounting email might be the quickest way for us to just make sure that somebody's taking care of it on a quick return basis. Like I say, we have dealt with some, and I did think this might be a good opportunity for me to share one that stands out to me that we checked into yesterday. I'm not sure exactly how many counties the Telephone Mutual Aid Corporation pertains to, but just an FYI, even though what has a billing date of 1/1/24 on it. And this went out this week, it looks like. Those are December payments. So any payment from them in the last like week or so with the bill date of 1/1/24 is still a depositable item for you. And then that will switch over next month. They're very aware of the new process, so they're good to go there. But that was just one that stood out to me and one that we've already kind of dug into and researched. So I wanted to point that out. And I guess I'll just kind of look forward to working with you all and to seeing if there are any questions along the way. Yeah, just don't hesitate to reach out. We are here to help you and make the process as smooth of a transition as possible.
All right, thank you, Angie. And so we've sort of reached the portion of the call where I think it's time to transition over into a Q&A section. So I will start, I guess, by just covering some of the questions that come up in the chat. So just starting to look at this for the first time. Will this be recorded? Yes, that'll be recorded. And what we've done for the telcos is we've shared that through the resources page of the website. So we'll probably do something similar or the same thing for the counties for this session, is just post that on the resources page, and it'll probably just link to a video that you can watch.
Okay, hey Jason,
Yeah, go ahead.
it's Nadine with the state.
Hello,
As far
Nadine.
as those December billings that you're getting checks for, I hope we keep sending those back to the telcos, because I've billed for October, November, and December to the counties.
Can you hope that we're sending what back? Could you
The
say that
checks
again?
you were saying you guys are getting checks for December?
What we're saying, well, I guess Angie can be more clear. I think what we're seeing is we're seeing the counties getting checks for January. Some of them, very rare. Those are the checks we're wanting, I think, to send back. Is that accurate, Angie?
Right. Yeah, I guess I'm not exactly certain of the question either, but I mean, it's common for all of the service providers to be collecting their December fees and then not submitting those or turning them over until the following month because they have the 30 days to do so. So the December everything is always a month lag is kind of the way it works out. So that in January, typically what the counties are receiving is payments for the month of December fees. So I'm not sure, did that answer your question, or am I missing something yet?
No, that should answer it, because December, I just billed the counties for that on January 1 also, so nope, that should answer that.
Okay.
And I think, Angie, maybe you haven't met Nadine. Nadine is with Department of Emergency Services and State Radio. So we invited her to participate just to help with any questions that might come up with regards to state radio payments. So I appreciate her being here. Yeah, to help us work through those questions. So thank you, Nadine.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
All right, can we send out a list of those counties you don't have an ACH from? I think, Angie, you had suggested that that they reach out to you if they don't know if they've
Well, I mean, we can do
submit
it.
or,
I think we can do it either way.
okay,
I mean, we can definitely go through our list and just shoot an email out to those. Maybe we do both if we're not having the ACH form yet and or the accurate or confirmation of the surcharge rate. Maybe we'll have an email sent in the next couple of days to those counties that we're missing stuff from. Maybe that'd be the easiest way to handle that.
yeah, okay. Yeah, that's something we can do. Ben, we can send it out to those counties that we haven't received feedback from yet. We have a question from Don. Will you be sending our payment to State Radio for our quarterly payments based on the number of lines? And the answer to that is no. That is not a payment that we're making as part of this program. It added a lot of complexity to the process, and it wasn't something that was consistent across all the counties. We're trying to do the program around supporting a consistent service, and it's made complicated by the fact that we're not able to figure out um, based on the surcharge rate and what State Radio is charging for a fee. We don't have the full amount to remit on your behalf because the rate is such that when you pay the siren fees, you pay the NDACO fees, there is not enough money left over to pay State Radio. So then we'd have to coordinate with the county on, okay, well, you know, the county has this remaining balance to pull out of its general fund and support this remittance for this quarter. So it was just too complicated. So what we decided to do was try to simplify it for the State Radio counties by providing a monthly report as Kevin showed you. And then based on the line counts and the receivables you get back, which we're not, you know, we're just taking out the siren and NDACO portions, then the counties can calculate or figure out what, you know, what the remittance looks like to State Radio. So not at this time, maybe that changes in the future, but definitely not starting here in January. That won't be done on the State Radio county's behalf. Have a question from Jean about who do we contact for a password packet? Because we never did get one. The accounting at ndaco.org would be a good place to start. I'll go back and look because I think I sent those out originally and see why you didn't get one or who it went to, Jean. But if you didn't get a packet, please reach out to accounting at ndaco.org. That would be the easiest way to do that. And there's a question from Gail about, so we pay our local providers. Could you elaborate a little bit on that question, Gail? I'm not sure I'm following the question. Gail, are you there? Okay, I don't really know. Okay, our local phone companies to get to State Radio. Yeah, I'm not following. I think it would be easier to communicate if you're able to go off mute. Your payment to State Radio will be based on the information that comes to you in each monthly report, is what we're saying. The 911 fees come into NDACO. We pay the siren fees on your behalf because we have the money to do so. We pay the NDACO and G911 program, the 10 cents that program's due because there's enough money to do so. But we return the remaining balance back to the counties because there's not enough money to support the payment to State Radio after those fees are removed. So those fees come back to you and you use the report to determine the line count and the amounts due to State Radio. I have a question from Peggy for the Lake Region Law Enforcement Center. Did the packet information go to the county auditors? Will I receive a packet to include all 4 of our counties? Yes, Peggy, I did send an email to you for all 4 of those counties. I think they did also get a copy of that information, but you should have received a packet. And if you did not, reach out to that accounting at ndaco.org and CC me because I did double check to make sure those emails went to your email address, but maybe I had the email address wrong. So we can definitely follow up on that. But yes, that the way it should work for Lake Region Law Enforcement Center, as you're the collecting agency for those counties, you should be accessing those reports and that information, and we need your ACH information to submit those deposits to the Lake Region Law Enforcement Center on those 4 counties' behalfs. All right, so we have, I think, gotten through the chat questions. How about anybody else? I mean, we do have a lot of folks in here. I'm seeing a count of 107. So if you want to ask your question verbally, you can raise your hand and we can recognize you, or you can just blurt it out. I guess if we have a bunch of people chiming in at the same time, we'll do the hand raising. So let's see what we have on the voice side. Any questions on the voice side? Okay, I do see a question from Kimberly Robbins. As of now, the login to the 911 Fees website is general. Will it be changed to be more secure and a second login? So the password information was sent out in that email. I think I don't recall exactly what it was, but I don't think we created specific passwords. I think it was just I'd have to go back and look. The point is though that the counties can change their password. So once they log in, they have the option through the profiles page to change their password to something more secure. But there is no information in there that we're sharing that really is sort of confidential. I mean, it's a read-only sort of view in on the information. It's not going to adjust any deposits. It's not going to be changing any line counts. It's just a view in on the database so that you can see what the information is. So, you know, if it had information on who, you know, like where all your retirement information was, we'd look at putting some more security behind it. But as of now, it'll just be your username and whatever password you choose. And again, that should be coordinated by the county, whoever the primary point of contact is going to be. So everybody, you know, so you're not changing passwords on yourselves. So that's why we're kind of recommending a sort of a single point of contact. And if you want to share the password, that's really up to you. The website's really not doing anything other than sharing information with you and you having a read-only view in on it. Have a question from Don, just to clarify the payments to the state. We made payment for the December collections. We're done with sending that now, and will you be making the payment for January collections? So by payment to the state, are you referring to the siren payment, Don? Or are you referring to the state radio payment? I need to know which one you're talking about. Yes, the 50 cents. Correct. So starting in the starting on January 1st, again, there's going to be collections that the carriers bring in during that month, and we will be for the month of January starting ACH deposits to the state treasurer for sirens. So that they will be for the January, February, and beyond payments. So you're good through December, and beyond that, from January on, as long as this program is running, we'll make those deposits on your behalf. We've already have the ACH information for the state treasurer and the reporting pieces that we need to submit information. I think there was a program they use, and somebody may remember what that's called. I don't. Angie, do you remember what that system's called that the state treasurer has historically used for receiving the?
Is that the TDoc or TDocs or something like that? Is that what you're talking about?
That's right. So I think that's the name of it. And the state treasurer has asked us to fill in those numbers. So you won't need to do that. We're going to be doing that on your behalf for the siren program only. In the future, we're hoping to make that a little bit more efficient, whereby we can just send the state treasurer maybe like an Excel spreadsheet or a delimited list of reports for all the counties, and they can just ingest it. But right now it's a bit of a manual process, at least until the Secretary of State can make it more of an import process to to make it easier on our team.
Jason, can I add one thing as well? I just
Sure.
want to make sure that we're all on the same page with Don's question particularly, because I just want to be clear. It kind of sounds like what she's referring to is meant for December collections. And I just want to point out that there likely are still payments coming into the counties that the counties will keep in January that are for December, but maybe they haven't received yet by already, what is it, the 12th today? So it kind of seems to me like there might be one more payment that they would have to make. So if you keep the funds, then you make the siren payment on those dollars. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense, and you know, I think that's a good point that you make, that we're not even halfway through the month of December,
Right.
and I don't know that you know where Don, who Don is with, but um, we have expected that funds will continue to come in through the month of January for December. So it
Right.
seems a little early to me making a submittal for Siren, but maybe Dawn has all her receivables for December already. But I think the point you made is if you receive funds, if a county receives funds for the month of December, that those need to be reported directly to the state treasurer um, for the month of December. We'll handle everything from the 1st of January onward for receivables, but everything prior to that needs to be reported directly.
Right, and I
Jason.
see Don just added another note there saying that she used what she received in December. So then I would say in your instance, Don, you would at the end of January make one more payment using what you receive in January and keep. That is for the year of 2023, and then it will switch over at that time.
Jason, Ben Gates, Steele County. So I guess I was maybe confusing myself too. So everything, so I won't finalize my 2023 year until probably February, March timeframe, because that's when February more than likely, because that's when we get our final lines and stuff in for December. So when those payments get made in March, that'll be done with my normal, how I've been doing it, and then we'll transition into what we're doing here, correct? That's my understanding of it.
I think so. Angie can correct me, but what I heard you say sounds right, that you're going to continue receiving checks through January for the month of December, right?
Right, correct.
And once those stop for December, then you would send your payment into the state treasurer through the normal processes.
To finish that process off for those 2023 payments, yes.
Right, and then anything in the meantime we get collected for January, February, et cetera, that would just start with this process through NDACO.
Right. So,
Yep, go ahead,
right.
Jason.
Well, I was just going to say, and you shouldn't receive checks for January. You know what I mean? That's where we're trying to work with those carriers, that they should not be sending a county a check for January before January's done, because the collections aren't complete. All the subscribers haven't paid their bills on, you know, the 12th of January by now. They're going to continue paying their phone bills through the month, and those carriers will continue to receive those payments, presumably through January 31st. But once that's over with, then the full amount should be known by the SES communications provider or the vendor, and then they'll have the month of February to provide their reports and their remittances.
And then for the NDACO payment, I think Carlo put it in there too in the chat, but we'll have to do the December funds for back to NDACO for one more time at least.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yep. If you're keeping the money in January for December, then you would remit to NDACO and to the state treasurer for Siren the way you always had. So it's only the you know, the work that we're doing beyond is really going to start in February on your behalf. So yeah, if you receive funds and they're for December, you keep those and you report on them. If you receive funds in January and they're for January, let us know, because we need to work with some folks on making sure they're on the same page. Does that help?
100%. Thank you.
Well, I assume that answers your question as well, Carla. I hope I don't miss any. Okay, so I have a question or a comment from Peggy. For the carriers that do estimate their monthly remittance, one payment didn't come through, so the carrier notes a negative remittance. Then when elected carrier an additional positive across, or how do you handle this? So Peggy, I think that comes down to how the telephone service providers have been doing things historically. And we don't believe that that is really the intent of the statute. If you look in Century Code Chapter 5740.6, it does specifically state that that the amount is that the service providers have 30 days to remit the fee after it is collected. And what has been happening is they're looking forward and saying, well, we're going to send out our bills, and this is the money we expect to receive, but we haven't actually received it yet. But we're going to go ahead and make payment as a county based on what we anticipate we're going to get, and then we have to do like corrections to fix what actually came in. Well, that sort of handling goes away if you simply say, on the 31st of the month, when after all of the collections have come in, we'll report on that, rather than to say, we're going to anticipate what we're going to receive. Well, we didn't receive that, so now we need to make an adjustment, right? That's what they're doing now. In some cases, they're having to make adjustments because they're projecting what their revenues are going to be. We're not asking them to project what their revenues are going to be. We're saying, send us the fees that you actually receive in hand. If you do that, then the whole adjustments piece really isn't necessary unless there's an actual human error, like they keyed in the wrong number or something. But the projection piece, that's the piece we're trying to change the mindset and set the expectation on what we're looking for with this program, and to make it consistent, because some carriers do it that way, some don't. And we're trying to create consistency across the board here, so it makes sense. Hopefully that answers that question. I don't see any other hands up. I don't see any other questions in the chat. Yes, and so this. So yeah, Peggy, I think that's probably something that I'm not going to be able to answer directly, and probably is going to be a little off kilter for this first month. But then beyond that, after we have a chance to get them on the right page, it shouldn't matter. And the other thing that we always like to say to ourselves to makes us feel better is, whether the checks are coming to the county or whether they're coming through to NDACO, at the end of the day, the county's gonna get the same funds that they were due. So it'll all balance out in the end. But yeah, the first month in the transition, there might be a little bit of overlap, or gap or whatever. But at the end of the day, the funds shouldn't change. They should catch up. Any other questions? I think I have a schedule till 11 o'clock, so we can continue. But if there are no other questions, I won't keep people. About 9 minutes left. Anything from the team? Angie, Kevin, anybody else from NDACO, or?
I think I'm good, but feel free to reach out with any questions along the way, even down the road. So we're here to help.
Misty, it'll probably take a day. I probably won't have it until like Monday or Tuesday up, just because we got to pull it down, and we got to put it on our YouTube page, and I don't have access to that. I won't get into all the details, but sometime by early next week, I think you should expect to see that. Also, if you didn't get the account information, please do reach out to accounting@ndaco.org as soon as possible. We want to verify your surcharge rate. We want to make sure we have your ACH information. So we tried our best to reach out to everybody. We maybe had some email addresses wrong or something. I've already changed a couple of yours. But if you're on this call and you feel like you should have received one, again, I submitted it to the auditors and treasurers. I CC'd the 911 coordinators, but at the end of the day, somebody there needs to have access and be able to get those reports and coordinate with us on the ACH and the surcharge rate. So reach out if you didn't get that message, and then coordinate internally on who's going to be responsible primarily for ongoing administration. So Jean did ask a question. Will your report have? Yeah, so that was shown in Kevin's portion of the presentation. The report will have the name of the company, the line counts, and broken down by wireless, voice over IP, and wireline. So you'll have all the information each month to do what you need to do for your state radio remittances.
And just an FYI, if you did miss that portion of the presentation, it is something that we won't necessarily send with your ACH payment, but you'll be able to go retrieve that report in the portal so that you can match it up with the payment that you receive.
So hopefully that answers Jean's question. Yeah, Carrie, thank you. We are obviously it's a lot of work, and we're open-eyed about that there might be some bumps along the way here as we get this thing rolling. But we've tried to do everything we can to account for as many scenarios as we can imagine, and we think we're in a really good place. So if you do have questions or concerns, just let us know. But I think we're ready to go over here. We're excited to kick things off and excited to work with you all on this process. If you have ideas for what you might like to see changed or adjusted once you get into the system, let us know that too. We want to make this as easy as possible for you and get you the information that you need to do your jobs. And hopefully this will give you a little bit more time on your hands so that you can do other things. Yeah, we're really trying to create the information that you need so you have it readily available and don't have to always compile it. So with that, I want to thank you for your time today. We'll stop the recording now, and we'll share that recording out with you just as soon as we're able.